Good afternoon. Welcome to this week's I Would Agree. Good to see you all joining us. I see the numbers ticking up on LinkedIn nicely there. Good to see everyone's joining along. And pleased to see I've pleased someone already with the name of the show. Steve, good to see that you like that one. I couldn't really do anything else. It was too good to miss that opportunity. I've got a good one coming up in a couple of weeks when you see the Iceland one as well. But without any further ado, let's bring the star of this week's show. I feel more and more every week, I feel like I'm on TV. It's great. I love this. Welcome, Paul. Good to see you. It's a great name you've got there. How did you come by that? No, honestly, good to have you on the show, Paul. I know you've kind of got quite a big network, quite a big following on LinkedIn and stuff, and obviously that's kind of partly down to, I guess, the business that you are co-founder for is kind of very people oriented, to put it mildly. Alan, good to have you on the show.
Yeah, it's great to be here, mate. It's been obviously we've been talking for a while now, so it's eventually great to kind of actually get on the show and tube a fat.
That's it. So I guess as I ask pretty much everybody as they come along to the episode, I know you're not kind of working in the contact center environment as such, but I guess my question to you then is a little bit more tailored. How did you come to start CMR Group? Where did that come from? What kind of brought it to your mind and made you decide you wanted to do it?
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's obviously always a bit of a big leap setting up your own business, but without kind of going to a massive telling you about my whole kind of life story. But started off in contact centers, worked my way out straight there. I worked there at university and then kind of had like a team leader role waiting for me, worked my way out, worked for an insurance company, not far from you actually, a company called Card Protection Plan. We're in York. So that's where I was at uni. So I was there for about 6 years, and probably a bit like recruitment, contact centers, the same thing. And I'm pretty sure I saw some big debate on this yesterday on LinkedIn, just kind of saying, no one kind of thinks when they're young, they want to work in the contact center industry. However, we kind of fall into it. Recruitment's basically the same as that. So I did fall into it, and I got to a point where I thought, is this for me? I've done quite a few jobs. I've worked in training, worked in kind of client management, even worked in kind of MI and stuff as well. So and then kind of went into work in recruitment, recruiting senior people into contact centers. So obviously I had a bit of a head start there. And then skip forward another 6 years, decided that, do you know what, I'm going to give it a go myself. So CMR was born in 2014, so we're 8 years old. And I think I worked for a big corporate recruiter, had brilliant place to work. I wanted to have like a actual specialist boutique company rather than just be part of a small team who kind of did it. And I think that, the industry's changed a lot. So a lot of the skills and stuff to go with that have changed. So, what I was keen to do, hence the name customer management resourcing rather than contact center resourcing or whatever. So hence why that's kind of grown. And with, the types of skills we recruit, we're all across the whole kind of customer experience spectrum, really, mainly in that kind of mid to senior space. But yeah, so that's how I came to do it. I just thought one day, right, let's go for it and just see what happens.
It's interesting to see where people get the inspiration to start their own business from. And I guess some people kind of come to it more because they're forced into like an awkward situation, kind of like it's the better of two decisions. And other people kind of, I guess, like yourself, have just kind of become frustrated with the way things are in general and what you seem to make a difference in the world. And I guess that kind of links in quite nicely to a more recent job title that you've added to your profile, which is Associate Director of People here at TMAC as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Welcome on board, because I don't think we've officially announced you. I think you just kind of look in the back and got lost in the chaos of everything going on. But it is great to have you on board, Paul.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think from my perspective, as you know, I've known Jimmy for quite some time, and we were kind of just, catching up, brainstorming about kind of maybe how we can work together, and then, as TMAC was kind of growing, working with more clients, offering kind of more, increasing your kind of service proposition, I said, well, have you looked at a kind of people solutions kind of service, basically? Because obviously what TMAC is great at is going into a business, carrying out like a full review of how, how the operation can improve. Obviously you're first and foremost a technology company, but looking at that whole kind of people, process, tech, and those three things kind of have to go together. So from my perspective, my role as a associate director at TMAC is to help you with when we're doing those kind of reviews across organizations. And obviously when you're looking at the type of skills you've got within the kind of more contact center operation, I suppose, how outdated are those skills? Obviously what are TMAC trying to do? What's the technology trying to do? So obviously a lot of that is kind of focusing on automating a lot of those kind of more mundane kind of tasks and making the job of, say, your team leaders or advisors a little bit more exciting and a bit more complex. But I think what a lot of businesses fail to do is they invest in a lot of technology and then they don't quite know kind of how do we kind of capitalize on that, and they haven't got the right people around you. So it's more around kind of helping with that, looking at the kind of whole organizational structure, looking where the gaps are, versus looking at the kind of the upskilling opportunities and the current team in there, because obviously that's where you want to invest first. And then looking at the gaps after that to see where you might want to start recruiting externally. Trying to kind of keep up to date with what other organizations are doing, what a modern kind of customer experience kind of structure looks like and how it's formed, just to try and stay on top, really. So all those things kind of go really, really hand in hand with what CMR are doing and what TMAC are doing. So hence why it was a good opportunity to join forces.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think we've matured rapidly over the last 2 years since I've joined the business. They obviously changed from being a data science consultancy, moved into being a SaaS business, in the process of kind of building back out that consultancy arm now, so we can provide those sort of support roles as well. So yeah, you're right. Ultimately, it's tech supported by people and process, and we don't want. I quite like the fact that we'll kind of stand up and talk to people about actually. Tech's not what you need right now. It's what you need, but it's it's 6 months away. Yeah. What you need to do is get X, Y, and Z in place first, and we can help you do that as well. So just I guess another string to our guitar.
Yeah, that'll do. Yeah.
Well, I guess from that perspective, then, like touching on what you've said there about talent and recruitment, I guess. You'll have seen a lot of changes over the last couple of years, and I don't really want to hash too much over the COVID period because that's kind of the theme of the show every week sometimes. What do you see where people are struggling right now? Obviously, we've moved on from should we or should we not do hybrid working, remote working. I think most businesses have committed one way or another on site, flexible working, how you're going to do things. How are you seeing that impacting specifically around the BPO and outsourcing world, I guess, in terms of recruitment and new customers coming across to that environment?
Yeah, I mean, it's this kind of war on talent, which is a real kind of hot topic at the moment. There's a lot of challenges there. I'm not gonna. It's quite funny. I think people who don't know, who aren't kind of doing this day to day, are kind of seeing that, God, the recruiters must be kind of coining it in at the moment because there's just so many jobs out there. Well, that yes, there are a lot of jobs out there. However, it's a funny one. It's almost kind of to get to capitalize on the industry within a recruitment agency. You kind of need like a fine balance of lots of jobs, and then lots of candidates. But obviously, most of the time, it doesn't go like that. You kind of find it you might find it for a short period that you kind of get that balance right. But the last, since COVID, obviously COVID, everything kind of stopped straight away. And then I think it was, just start kind of Q2 last year. That's where we really started to see that demand for a lot more kind of, there's a lot more kind of jobs out there, but then there was just so much choice for different candidates. It was very difficult to kind of keep and establish that kind of candidate loyalty, which you normally have. And I think that's been a bit of a mixture. I mean, we're definitely kind of seeing that more of on the kind of more of a front line end, which, at CMR, we've got a delivery function, which focuses purely on that kind of front line. But, the bulk of our business is more about kind of senior exec. But to be honest, when it was tough, obviously, through 2020. I mean, 2021 was obviously still tough. We were kind of having to move people around to try and keep up with the demand, because obviously we didn't want to turn business away, but there wasn't much kind of going on before that. But then, we ended up having to be, and we still are having to be, quite selective who we work with, because, whilst we're good at what we do, the proof is that we've been here for a while and we've grown. We're at kind of nearly 30 people across 4 different countries. So we know what we're doing, but I think that there's that element that a client will come to us and expect us to kind of just pick things up and use our magic. And there we go. We've found all the people you were looking for. That obviously sometimes happens, but if it's kind of, you go through that and go, okay, well, let's look at everything here. Let's look at your talent attraction strategy, which we can help with. Let's look at your attrition. Let's look at your EVP, and let's look at all those factors, because that's having an effect on how you're attracting people to the role. Let's look at your process as well. You've got the likes of, I can't really name names and stuff, but we work with one of the biggest retailers in the world, and they have a ridiculously long recruitment process. And, we had to say to them, especially if they're kind of more, we do a lot of multilingual recruitment for them in our office in Barcelona. And it's a long old process at that kind of level, maybe 6 stages or something. So you kind of have to think, well, we need to be shortening that to make sure people aren't kind of dropping out, because people are losing patience. And the market's changed a lot. The market was, what I'm about to say was, we're already kind of going through this change kind of before COVID. I didn't do very well in my A levels, but I remember wanting to work for Barclays because we had a really good graduation kind of program in there. And I remember, I didn't get it. In fact, I would have, my degree was strong enough, but my A levels weren't strong enough, even though that was 4 years ago. And I remember thinking at the time, God, this process just doesn't work whatsoever. And nowadays, Gen Zers are more interested in working for the latest sexy startup than working for your big established corporates who can almost kind of guarantee that you'll have that kind of graduate program. They're not as bothered about working for a startup, which might not be around in a couple of years. So it's a very different way of looking at things, especially if you're attracting people at that kind of level. So I'm not talking about frontline people. I'm on about probably, it could be up to kind of mid-level people who've had 2 or 3 years experience. It's very much a different process than it used to be. And if companies aren't adopting those new ways of working, that's where we're starting to kind of fall down, really.
There's something that I've seen a few articles around as a kind of growing trend, is that senior leaders in most businesses, not even particularly in contact centers, senior leaders in most businesses are reducing their tenure down as time moves on. And what used to be an average 5-year time span in a particular senior leadership role is now probably more like 2.5, 3 years.
Yeah.
See, the impacts of that are quite big, I think, because I think that's to a certain extent contributing towards the vision that those leaders are looking at, because they're no longer looking at longer term goals and they're kind of trying to fix things that are within their expected tenure, I guess. Like, what can I fix in the next 2 years? What impact can I make in the next 2 years? Is that something that you kind of see a lot of? Is that kind of something that's growing, accelerating?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's quite common. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time now, and there's people I've recruited in roles where, I might have recruited the same person into different organizations. I mean, I think the best, the highest number is probably 5 different companies. That person's like a contractor, so they obviously tend to move around a bit more frequently. But no, you do. I think employee loyalty is a lot, especially if compared to like 50 years ago, where it wasn't that normal to be kind of moving about for different jobs, and you stayed there to get your kind of, to get your pension and so on. So I think that you do see people kind of moving around a bit more, even at that senior level. They kind of don't so much get bored quickly, but they kind of come in to go through a big transformation. And then unless there is something else there for them to do, they kind of like go, well, I've done what I needed to do. So, on to the next thing. So I think you do see a lot more, especially with, what's classed as startups, not so much startups anymore. You do see a lot more ways of holding on to good people, making sure there's enough kind of career opportunity, but also there's probably a lot more opportunities to have a shareholding in the business than there would have been kind of before. I think the likes of Amazon and stuff are trailblazers for things like that. But yeah, you do see kind of people. There's just so much kind of going on at the moment. So why kind of hang around in one company? Yeah. If the company's not moving fast enough for you, then it's very difficult to kind of hang around and kind of wait for that. So and we obviously saw the whole, through COVID, we saw this kind of great resignation. So lots of people kind of,
Jimmy hates that phrase, by the way. Don't use that in front of Jimmy.
Okay, I won't say that. I just read it somewhere, basically. But yeah, it's, a lot of people have kind of sat at home and we all know what that
reconsider option.
Yeah, exactly. Just think, is this really for me now and everything else? But yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, kind of living proof. I guess there's a couple of things that kind of come out the back of that. And one of them is if we look down more at the lower level employees, contact centers in particular, always had a challenge with retention and churn. I think probably the one thing that I've seen come out of the last couple of years is that where the agents and team leaders and stuff would kind of go around the local geographical area, and we all live in. There's lots of pockets of contact center world wherever they're kind of an abundance of them all together, and they used to kind of populate each one and just kind of do the rounds between, like, my missus did it, move around from sort of one business to the one over the road because you couldn't get this holiday and couldn't get that holiday. It was easy enough to move. They just take you on, you do a couple of weeks training, you probably go back in 6 months' time. Are you seeing that kind of nationalization, I guess, probably for want of a better word, of people applying across the country for more remote roles now so they can get into the roles that maybe fit them better or suit their lifestyle better?
Well, definitely. I think that whole lifestyle, work-life balance is a lot bigger thing than it used to be. I think the days of obviously working, kind of commuting, doing the big commutes and so on, 5 days a week is gone out the window. Really, it's still there, but as soon as people get a bit of a taste for, people have a bit more of a taste, don't they, for kind of working from home. So we want that kind of flexibility. So, so I think that you do see a lot more of that. And I would say if we're speaking to various different candidates about the same job, and they've got other jobs they're considering, it might not necessarily be that the salary is the biggest pull factor. It could be that there's kind of more flexibility to work from home. It could be anything, could be anything like, we allow people to have the dogs in the office at work, and that, just little things like that, where actually it's so much easier for some people because we don't have to find a dog walker. We don't need to be back. It's just little things like that, which you kind of forget, but it's a bit of a pain. And also we've got flexibility if there's any kind of especially kind of single parents or whatever, who need to pick the kids up from school, and we can kind of work around that. It's, the way we measure people, I'm talking about CMR rather than different clients, is we measure performance based on results. It's not kind of how many hours you're kind of sat in the office for. Those days are kind of, like I said, they're kind of long gone. I think what's a little bit frustrating for us is we were definitely one of the first. When I first set the company up, one of the big one of the annoying factors where I used to work was that I had to be in the office 5 days a week, and I never really understood why I needed to be in the office 5 days a week, because I could just, there's days where you just need to get your head down and not be disturbed. So we were one of the first recruitment agencies to actually do that, and we did that from the offset. And it was great, actually. We used to attract a lot of people who'd been working for the same company for a long time, who lived probably kind of quite locally, because we're based in Altrincham. So rather than having to go to Manchester every day, to do a couple of days in Altrincham and do some kind of home working days was a big pull factor for them. But obviously kind of things have changed really, and most agencies offer that now.
I think one of the things that I've heard a lot from guests that have been on the show when we've talked about this sort of thing is around, there's kind of this big dilemma around, do businesses or should businesses be spending their, let's be honest, contact center world is generally quite a very tight margin business to start with. It's a people business. Most people businesses are. But do you see better returns for those businesses in enhancing their packages in terms of trying to retain the staff that they've got? Like whatever that looks like, I'm not necessarily talking sort of paid, or is it a case that we just need to accept that people are going to leave? So get them up to speed as quickly as possible and put the money into both recruitment and training. Is there a answer? There is.
Yeah, there's not. It's a little bit horses for courses, but I can speak. I can tell you what we've done. We went this year for us. We even we brought in a consultancy who specialise in EVP to help us with our EVP, and to kind of try and work out how relevant we were. Looked at our benefits package, look at how flexible we are. Look at all those kind of things. I mean, like, so for example, for us, it was a big decision we made. But just before COVID, we decided to actually buy a building, rather than kind of carry on renting. And obviously when you're buying somewhere, when you're renting, you got to sign it to a tenure or whatever. And if you're in growth mode, you have to kind of guess of how big you're going to be so you don't outgrow it too much. But obviously buying somewhere is a whole other thing. So we bought somewhere a little bit just outside of, about a mile outside of Altrincham town centre. So not a bad location, but you get a lot more for your money there. So we got a biggish place, about 3,000 square foot, which is big for the size of the team we are. So we've got like the team on the top floor, and then we've got plenty of space downstairs, loads of meeting rooms. We've got a big lounge area. We've got like a staff kind of kitchen. We've got a table tennis table. And actually, when we actually kind of completed the transaction and got the keys in April 2020. You can imagine, a big talk about saying, right, you don't need an office anymore. But actually, we'll be able to work just as effectively in a virtual world. Was a little bit daunting when we spent a lot of money, and actually, even the place we bought was an old derelict old doctor's surgery, not been touched for 8 years. So it wasn't even fit for purpose. We needed to literally kind of spend another lots of thousands of pounds kind of doing that up, and we literally gutted it and completely changed it. But what's funny is now that's one of our employee benefits. It's you can kind of come and go to the office as and when you like. You don't need to be in all the time. You can use the kind of facilities, but we really we like people to feel that they've got kind of somewhere to come, and there's a social aspect to it as well. So it's kind of a best of both worlds, and actually we're kind of finding as well from like a client perspective, even some organizations who are looking to recruit and set up maybe in the Manchester area, they've used our facilities, so they haven't actually got an office themselves. So it's actually it's actually been a great benefit to kind of do something like that. And yeah, so like even next month, we're eventually having, I say eventually, we've been waiting for a while just to kind of get organized, but we've got 3 kind of roundtable events talking about the war on talent. We've invited about 10 people per session who are kind of senior execs in customer service or in HR, just to kind of really explore exactly kind of what challenges they've gone through and what solutions they're kind of putting in place. So it'd be really interesting to get the kind of to see what people say, and also just talk a little bit about maybe what next year looks like if we continue with this struggle to find talent. What does that mean for us? Does it mean that, I'm already starting to see that a lot of companies are going, do you know what, sod this, I'm going to go and outsource somewhere to somewhere a lot cheaper, because it's, if I have to employ people virtually, I might as well employ them on the other side of the world. If they're gonna be just as productive, it's going to cost me a lot less. So it's almost a kind of, it's a funny one, almost candidate, not deliberately, but shooting themselves in the foot. There might not be as many jobs in the UK anymore if we're under so much pressure. So yeah, it's a funny old place at the moment.
I think it's kind of, it's always very much on my radar in terms of getting people up to speed and seeing the benefits from them as quickly as possible. I think we've probably been quite guilty in previous years of letting that drag out unnecessarily. There's never really been a focus on bringing people into certainly in the contact center environment. How do you get people on the shop floor answering calls as quickly as possible? Well, yeah, it was always there, but there's never really been a huge drive on it. But I think to your point, I think the longer people are sat in training where they can't really get stuck into something, where they can't get involved in things, I've seen a lot of people actually move in, even just during that training phase, and just going, do you know what, this isn't for me, I'm going to go to another company. Do you think that the businesses that have kind of adjusted for that home-based learning and training approach in those early stages are seeing a kind of a bit of a win there?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to help as much as we can. I mean, in an ideal world, we would be a lot more involved with certain clients in terms of helping them. So for example, we have a variety of different service offerings, and we have what we call our kind of RPO offering, which is more kind of project based, whereby we're a lot more involved with clients. We help them with their EVP, but we also help them with their onboarding as well. Our SLAs aren't just based on how many people we're hiring. It's based around attrition as well. And obviously in our world, you have rebates, but obviously it's not within our interest to just recruit people and then walk away, because the client's not going to pay the bill, or you're going to have to over the money. And obviously it's not good anyway. So we want to be more involved, a lot more in the onboarding process. And I think it is really, really key to make sure there is that welcome, to make sure that people are feeling like they are joining a new organization and they're part of a family, rather than just going downstairs, turning on the laptop, which is the same laptop and the same chair they sat in on the Friday, and we do it again on the Monday, but it's a different company, but it's the same place we sat in. So how do you change that? And I guess that's, okay, you can change that, obviously, if there's a physical place to kind of go into, but obviously if some places are fully remote, then it's a bit more difficult. But I'm sure that's a whole other debate, which we've probably heard quite a few times on the old hybrid working topic, haven't we?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, there's a lot of different conversations that can spike off from that. And I think going back to the beginning, you nailed it quite well in terms of it's more now than ever. It's a people, process, and technology combination that are winning people over. But and again, probably more than ever, combined with a good culture within the business. And if that culture drips through all 3 of the pillars, then people will want to come and join the brand, to your point, almost regardless of the pay, not quite regardless, but
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
the businesses that I see doing it well have got a good, strong culture, good, strong brand identity, and they're leading with technology that empowers their people rather
Yeah.
than kind of reduces their impact, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah. They've got to be, because it, like I said, it's a tough market out there. So we need to be doing something different to stand out.
Awesome. Paul, it's been great to chat to you. Unfortunately, our half hour's up already. Could have gone on for a lot longer, I'm afraid. But it's been good to have you on the show. We'll have to get you back in a few months and see how things are getting on with CMR and the new office, and see where things have gone. But
Yeah, I'd love to come back. Yeah, maybe if we do something kind of early next year. We've done a load of those roundtable events, and good to kind of talk more about the kind of, what results we found, and share that with you. Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. And if you're watching the show live, good to have had you along. Feel free to drop some questions in the comments. If you're watching us back, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on our LinkedIn page, thanks very much for joining us. Hopefully you got something out of it, and I will see you again next Thursday at 3 p.m. All right. Thank you.
All right. Cheers. Thanks for having me.